Welcome to the Home Education with Ease podcast. I'm your host, Christine Furman, a homeschool mom, entrepreneur, and educator with over 20 years of experience in the areas of elementary and special education. It's my mission to help you create lifelong learners and embrace a holistic approach to education at home. I'll be sharing practical strategies, inspiration, and resources to support your family. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a business owner, or balancing work and homeschool, you're in the right place to connect with a community that values education just as much as you do. Join us each week as we ditch the stress, embrace the joy of learning, and set your family up for a lifetime of success.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Home Education with Ease podcast. I'm your host, Christine Furman, your home education expert. Well, today we are going to dive into fire safety tips, how to prepare your kids, your family in the event that a fire would happen. So as we dive into the month of October, we're going to talk all about safety. For this first week, the week of October 5th through the 11th, is Fire Prevention Week. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a lot of fire safety tips. How can we be prepared and prepare our children, set up fire plans, and what to do in the event that a fire does happen. And then as we continue going through this month, I have two very special guests that are going to be joining us this month. One guest is going to be talking about safety tips for you and your children. And the other guest is going to be talking about self-defense. So I'm very excited to welcome them onto the show the last two episodes of this month. So be sure to tune in, and they're going to be great. They are some dear friends of mine, and I've had them on other shows that I've had before, and I'm excited to bring them to you on the podcast. So stay tuned for those. But let's talk about fire safety. Why is it so important to address this, to talk about it? And there's a whole week dedicated to it. So I know for me personally, I talk to my children about fire safety often. I build it into my curriculum. I have a whole fire safety collection within my curriculum because it is very important to prepare our kids. So then that way, in the event that something does happen, they're not scared. They know what to do. They know how to react to the situation because they are prepared for it. So we're going to talk all about that today. I'm going to share lots of different tips, practical tips that you can take and teach your kids today, and things that you can do to prepare in the event of a fire or to prepare so it doesn't happen. Well, I want to share a little story with you first. I remember a few years ago, this was actually a few years ago, I talk about fire safety with my kids all the time, and we are pretty safe. And you guys know I'm a huge advocate for bringing the kids in the kitchen, making sure that they feel comfortable in and around the kitchen, working the oven, in the stove, in the microwave, but knowing the safety behind it all as well. Well, we were making eggs. We were all in there together. And I had one of those silicone covers. I typically used it for in the microwave, but it sometimes would go on my pans, so then that way I wouldn't have splatter. Well, for whatever reason, it got taken off of a pan and it got set down on the oven. Well, whenever the flame lit for the eggs that we were making or whatever we were making, it actually caught that silicone lid on fire. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do we do? What do we do? Right? And the kids were like, what do we do? They knew what to do, but in that moment when it happens, it was like, oh my goodness. Okay. So we were able to take care of that. I have since removed those silicone lids from our kitchen because I didn't like that at all. That was very scary for us. Luckily, it didn't cause more of a problem than it did. We were right there. We were attending to our flame, attending to the stove at the time. But it was still a little bit scary, even though we were prepared. So just keep in mind that those things happen very quickly and easily. One of the things I never do is put pizza boxes on top of my oven. I don't like that at all. It's very easy for a burner to get bumped and you have cardboard right there on top of your stove. So that's something I don't do. I make sure that we have it moved off to the side. Paper towels, make sure they're always moved away. Even your hand towels, things like that. Because when you have that flame, you literally have an open flame, and we have a gas stove. So it may be a little different for an electric, but with our gas, you have an open flame right there. And we just have to be prepared and know how to handle it and know what to do in certain situations. And so, obviously that opened up a conversation with me and my kids. And I think that's very important to have, is when these situations happen or before the situations occur, have these conversations and say, hey, we're going to talk about fire safety. We're going to talk about setting up a plan, coming up with our fire safety plan. And I'm going to share some of those things with you. So what I would love from you is if you head over to the Home Education with Ease Facebook group and share your safety tips. What fire safety tips have been helpful for you, or what situations have you been in that you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this differently to prevent that. So I would love to know some of those. And then also I want to see your kiddos. If you are going to any festivals or visit a firehouse or, a fire station, or have firefighters in your family, I would love to see those pictures, because that is going to continue to help bring awareness and help other moms as well. So we would love that. That's what we're all about here, is really building the community and really helping to support each other on our journey and knowing that we're not alone. Definitely never alone on your journey. So let's talk about some of the seasonal tips. We've got the holidays coming up. We have fall weather coming. There might be some bonfires, campfires, talking to our kids about that safety of what should and shouldn't we do around a campfire or a bonfire, and knowing, how far to stay away, making sure we're not having any flammable clothing, that's loose and you're getting too close to the fire, possibly catching things on fire. I know fall is such a wonderful time to wear flannel, very flammable. So keep those things in mind when you are having fires and, your kiddos are roasting marshmallows. It's a perfect opportunity to teach them about fire safety. And if you do have campfires or bonfires, I would love to see those pictures as well, because that is one of my favorite things about fall. I love sitting around a fire and just enjoying the crisp air and watching the fire. So it is one of my favorites, roasting marshmallows, all of those things. So keep those safety tips in mind. And then as I was doing some research, I found the 5 leading causes for fires. It said during the holidays, but really these could be most of them could be any time of the year. So the number one cause was Christmas trees. So that was something to kind of keep in mind as we do come up to the Christmas season, the lights, the electrical outlets. If you have a real tree, if you have a fake tree, kind of keeping those things in mind and being able to keep an eye on your Christmas tree. Other thing was holiday decorations. So think outdoor, indoor lights, right? If you're putting indoor lights outside, they're not built for that. I know there have been times when I'm like, but these ones, I have this extra strand. But if it's not built for the outdoors, it could cause a fire. Electrical malfunctions, think too many things plugged into an outlet, too many like extension cords, or the cords are all tangled. So kind of keeping an eye on those things and making sure our kids are not around those outlets, or, I'm thinking right now like TVs and TV stands. There's always a lot of cords in the back of the TV where whether you have a cable box or a DVD player or any kind of video games, there's lots of cords. Not only could that be fire hazards, we also want to keep in mind for any choking hazards as well there. And don't want our kids to have any electrical shocks, lots of things like that. The other thing was unattended stoves. And this is definitely something to keep in mind, like, oh yeah, we're just going to run upstairs to grab X, Y, and Z. And then we leave dinner on the stove. It burns, it just can continue to cause a ripple effect there. So keep that in mind. If you do have to walk away from the stove, turn it off, or maybe have someone else watch it. The other thing was another cause was candles, which makes so much sense. Again, another open flame, keeping candles supervised, making sure that our kids know to not touch them. And if you're in the holistic space, like I have been in the past 5 years or so, I've really reduced candles altogether because they're giving off, there's so many fragrances and different things that they're giving off. So I know that they make such a cozy feel in the home, but definitely research, find ones that are good for your home and what you want to do in your home. So keep those things in mind, but definitely safety when it comes to candles, not touching the flames, not having them near drapes or things like that, and never leave them lit whenever you are not, in the room or I would say when you leave the house, things like that. So just some simple things to kind of keep in mind as we go into the holiday season. We're inside more often, we're decorating more, and just some simple things to keep us safe. One of the other things that I didn't realize caused fires or so many fires was the dryer. And I don't know why I didn't know this. This was, recently, maybe a couple years ago, whether something happened and I saw an article was like, oh yeah, this was caused from a dryer fire. And I was like, what? What is that? So that is the lint that's built up in your dryer. And it's extremely flammable. That build-up lint blocks the airflow, and then your dryer is getting hotter than it should, and then that heat ignites the lint, and it causes a fire. So definitely something to keep in mind by cleaning your lint filter every time, especially after towels. I know for me, after towels, it's full. So keep that in mind. Clean out the lint filter. Also, clean and check your dryer filter often. It doesn't have to be every time, but at least once a year. You can have professionals come in and clean that out. There are some brushes that you can put in there to kind of clean it out as well. So keep those things in mind as well. And then a few other tips. It said don't overload your dryer, which I thought that was interesting. I probably am culprit of that sometimes, trying to get as many loads of laundry in as we can. So definitely do not overload it. And then making sure that we have the right plug and the outlet for the dryer because it does use more amps. So keeping things in mind like that for just household safety. So those are some of the household safety tips. And what I am going to share with you now is something that I saw also was like a fire prevention kit. And I'm going to share this with you now, and then we could talk more about some other tips. But I have with me, if you're watching the video on YouTube, I have what's called a fire blanket. And it's just in this red packet. I'm going to put a link in the show notes below so you guys can check it out and purchase one if you want to. I received this as a Christmas gift from my grandma. She gave everyone one for Christmas one year. And she was like, listen, this is a totally practical gift. It's not a fun gift at all, but I think everyone should have one. And I had never heard of this before. So it's a fire blanket. It comes in this one is in a red package, and it has 2 straps that you would just pull it down in case of a fire. And then there's a big fire blanket that you would just put over the fire. And there are videos online. Like I said, you can even check out the link in the show notes and you'll see some videos for that too. So keeping things like that on hand, I have that one right in the kitchen because that's typically where a fire would be for us, would be over our gas stove. The other place, maybe a grill. So if you have a gas grill, or any grill, obviously, because anything can catch on fire. Food can catch on fire. So keeping those things in mind, candles, you may want to have one on each floor of your house, or if everyone knows where the fire blanket is, you at least have that. So that's something to keep in mind. Definitely, there was something else called fire spray. That was something on there. You can check that out as well. And then fire protection gloves, fire extinguisher, smoke detectors, and fire sprinklers if you have them in your home. We do not, but we have smoke detectors. So let's talk about our smoke detectors. Those should be tested monthly to make sure that they're working, and preferably not by burning food or having smoke, right? But by actually testing them with the button. And then the batteries should be replaced every 6 months. I know a good rule of thumb is changing them when the time changes in the year. So in the spring and in the fall, spring forward, fall back. Those are some good times, good reminders, or maybe it's, the beginning of the year and, at the end of summer, something like that. So keeping that in mind. I know that I'm guilty of replacing them when they go off and they, it just starts beeping and it's like, oh, I guess it's time to replace the fire batteries. That's how it goes kind of in our house, but we really should get better about replacing them ahead of time. But the other thing I want to talk about is our fire extinguishers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how are we preparing our families. So we talked a lot about some of the things that could happen, but now how do we prepare everyone? So let's talk about fire extinguishers, and then we're going to get to some of those practical tips, which this is a practical tip too. But teaching our kids how to use and handle a fire extinguisher in the event that they need to. And I remember my dad shared with me, he was like, don't you remember we had a lot of property, and I guess it was an old couch, and we had like a fire pit, if you will. And it was just a big dirt pit. And I guess that there was an old couch that they lit on fire to show us, one, how quickly it catches on fire, like instantly. And then two, to show us how to use a fire extinguisher. I don't necessarily remember that, but I do remember him getting a huge stainless steel bowl and lighting something, paper, cardboard, whatever, on fire and putting it in the bowl, and us practicing the fire extinguisher that way. So many ways you can practice with the fire extinguisher, actually practicing it. And I'm going to share with you what's called the PASS method, PASS. So the P stands for pull the pin. So it's going to unlock the extinguisher and it's ready to use. Show your kids what this looks like. What does the pin look like? And remind them that only the adults should use these, but if they need to, they're going to know how to do this, okay? And they never play with this. So that's very important to keep in mind as well. We want to show them this, but we also want to give them the expectations of this is not a toy. This is not something that you should play around with or say, hey, I learned how to do this. We're going to make sure that this is for safety purposes. The A then stands for aim low. So point the nozzle or the hose at the base of the fire, not the flames. And it says the fires burn from their fuel source. So spraying the base is what actually puts it out. So that's a good tip for anyone to be able to remember to aim low and get the base of the fire, not the actual flames. The S then the S stands for squeeze the handle. Firmly squeeze to release the extinguishing agent. Keep steady pressure until it stops, which again, this is why it will be very difficult for a child to do, something that an adult should do, but we still want them to practice, when they get older and know how to do this. So we're going to squeeze the handle, aim low, and be able to put that out. And then the other S stands for sweep side to side. So we're going to move that nozzle side to side and aiming it for the base of the fire and keep spraying until the fire is out. So there are some practical tips on how to use a fire extinguisher. Definitely helping myself here to brush up on my fire extinguisher skills. I know that as I was researching this, I was like, yeah, I know that I probably could figure it out, but would I have known all of that? Probably not. I probably wouldn't have aimed low. I do remember though sweeping side to side. So keep these things in mind. P was for pull the pin. A, aim low. S, squeeze the handle. S, sweep side to side. So these are some things that you could teach your kids. You could be doing it and showing them as well. So what we also want to do then is we want to talk about fire safety drills, and we want to make them fun as well as educational. So we're doing all of these things with our kids. We're having all of these conversations, but how do we do it, right? How do we make it fun? There's books, there's songs. I've created a whole fire safety collection full of games, crafts, and activities. So then that way your children are able, it's a great way for you to come up with a conversation and be able to dive deeper by reading the books or listening to me read the books to your kiddos, by singing the fire safety song, by creating different crafts. One of the games that I have is like setting up solo cups, and then we put a flame on it, like a picture of a flame, and then we throw water at it. So it's just water balls, right? And we throw that at it. So it's like they're putting out the fire with the water. And again, it's just something fun for them to kind of make those connections. And the other thing you could do is go to festivals. There's always firefighters at festivals. Touch a Truck, there's always different events like that where they have different fire trucks and different, fire safety days, things like that. Go to the festivals, go to the events, see the firefighters, see the fire trucks, look at their gear. If you have the opportunity, plan a visit to a fire station. Maybe you can, your kids can check out the gear and be able to see that. And then practice the drills. We're going to talk about the escape plan here next, but practice fire drills with your kids using their toys and their stuffed animals. I know that Alex for a very long time had the huge Paw Patrol fire truck. And that would be the best way to be practicing with our stuffed animals. It's all that role playing, because those are the things that they are going to remember the most. Like, oh yeah, I remember when I had all my stuffed animals and this part of the house caught on fire and the firefighter came, and it's making them familiar with the situation, what to do in the event that this happens. And we're going to talk about that next. The other thing you can do is watch videos. YouTube, I have a ton of resources that I can share with you as well, but there are fire safety videos. There was even a fire safety DVD that I was able to rent from the library, borrow from the library. And it was actually a really good one. The kids enjoyed that one. It's very informational. But there's also shows that talk about fire safety as well. So many things that you could, me, guys, I'm all about multisensory. So how can we teach our kids about fire safety in many different ways, right? Reading books, watching videos, playing games, role playing, singing songs, all the things. And it's really going to help them to remember. Well, let's now talk about our family escape plan. What do we need to do in the event that this does happen? One, create this escape plan with your family. So this weekend or, one day during the evening, take some time and everyone get a piece of paper and draw an escape plan and let everyone come up with their own escape plan at first and say, okay, what would we do in the event that there's a fire? And let them come up with an idea. Maybe they have a way that they would get out. And then maybe they don't. And then that's the perfect opportunity to say, or maybe they see other ways. And that's what we want. We want to make sure that we have at least 2 exits to be able to get out of our house, of each room. Think about in a room, there's a window and there's a door. You have 2 ways to get out. If the door is hot to touch, don't open that door. You got to kick out the window. And you've got to tell your kids these things because they're not going to know. Like, yes, or you open the window and you kick out the screen, right? And if the rooms are too high, there are fire ladders. Definitely invest in those because your kids need to be able to have a way out. I remember having a fire ladder because our bedroom when I was a kid was high and it was under my bed and it would just kind of go on the outside of or on the windowsill and it would hang down and we would go down that fire ladder. So keeping those things in mind, teaching our kids and making sure that they're prepared for these situations. So let's talk about our fire plan. Take some time this weekend, make a fire plan, and then talk about it and then practice it. Okay, everyone made their fire plan. Could this work? Yeah, we could get out this way. But what if there's a fire in the kitchen? Are we going to be able to go out the back door? Maybe not. What if there's a fire in the living room? Are we going to be able to go out the front door? Maybe not. What if there's a fire up the hallway stairs? What are we going to do? Can I go down the steps to get out the front door? No. I've got to figure out a window and get out as fast as I can, right? So making sure that you're coming up with these plans for them so then that way they know what to do. Also, talk about where you're going to meet. Are you going to meet at the mailbox? Is your mailbox far enough away from your house that your mailbox is a good meeting point? If it's not, find something else. The neighbor's house across the street, a tree, a specific tree, not just say, we're going to meet at the tree. Well, which tree? Is it going to be our tree? Is it going to be the neighbor's tree? Is it going to be this bush? Find a specific meeting place so we all know where it's at. Practice those drills and then also practice what to do, not only where the fire is, but what do we do if a parent is not nearby? Who then is going to say, okay, call for each other, get low and down to the ground, and be able to get everyone out of the house and calling 911? How are we doing that, right? We don't have house phones. We're going to have to get our cell phone and call 911. Our neighbors, get to the neighbor's house, call 911. So everyone get out of the house safely and never, make sure you really express this to your children. Never run back into a burning building. I know it's hard. Our pets, make sure that we're grabbing them as we're going. I know they could get scared in these situations. So making sure that we get to our meeting place. And then when the firefighters get there, is everyone accounted for? Are all pets accounted for? Are all family members accounted for? Is there anyone we need to go in and save? So just kind of keeping those things in mind, what to do in these situations. Because if we're prepared, we're able to respond. Like I said, it's still scary, but you're able to respond a little bit better because we know what to do. So we briefly talked about it, but definitely crawl low in the smoke, stay down to the ground, because if you're staying down, that's where the air is clear and clean to breathe. So that's if the room is filled with smoke. And if your clothes catch on fire, stop, drop, and roll. And we talk about this. I do this in the EduPlay Learning Fire Safety Collection. We do it as a whole little movement, game, and activity because we need to know what to do in this situation. Another thing is never open a door if the handles are hot. And teaching our children about the importance of the safety of matches, candles, lighters, and even the stoves, right? So making sure that they know that this is not a toy. This is not something you should never play with matches. You should never play with candles or lighters or the stove, right? Because it is dangerous. And they need to know that these things are dangerous. And you guys know I'm a huge advocate, again, for getting your kids in the kitchen. But they do need to know the dangers of things that are in the kitchen. Knives can be dangerous, but you need to teach them how to use them. The stove can be dangerous, but we need to teach them how to use it. Same thing with matches and candles and lighters. They should never be in an area where our kids have easy access to it, or if they do, they know the importance and the danger of them. So keeping those things in mind as well. Well, I just would love to know what fire safety tips maybe I missed here, what additional tips you have that we can add, because we want to just make sure that we're preparing everyone for situations. A few things to kind of keep in mind: personal information, making sure your kids know personal information, your name, your phone number, your address, things like that. That is important. So when a firefighter does come up to them and they ask them, what's your name? Who's your mommy? What's your address? What's your phone number? Whatever that information is that they need, they're able to give it to them. So practice those important personal information. And also just you can practice those pieces of information with them when you're in the car, when you are, running errands or going on a walk. I know that's what we did. It was not always sit down and write it, but let's actually practice it when we're not, writing, when we're just saying it out loud. So keep those things in mind as well. But what I would love is for you to take some time this week or weekend, create and practice your fire safety plan with your family. It is very important. You want to make sure you have this plan so then that way you are prepared. And then, like I said, share any of those additional safety tips or tricks, and then share pictures of your kiddos learning about fire safety in the Home Education with Ease Facebook group. I definitely love to see your kiddos learning through play and having a great time that is enjoyable for them. And if you want to explore even more fire safety with your kids, check out the EduPlay Learning Fire Safety Collection. All of these links are going to be in the show notes below, as well as the link to that fire safety blanket.
Thank you for tuning in to the Home Education with Ease podcast. I hope today's episode left you feeling empowered and ready to take the next steps on your home education journey. Your support means the world to me. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. For even more resources, be sure to join the free Facebook group, Home Education with Ease, and visit eduplaylearning.com to explore our programs and subscription kits. You can find the links and any other links mentioned in this episode in the show notes below. Remember, you're not alone. This community is here to support you every step of the way.